this is what we discussed yesterday, I guess. Virtue of virtues. So let us proceed from here. Plato's education theory. Now, someone who wants to make Athens an ideal state, and someone who is such a profound thinker and philosopher, will of course have a lot to say on philosophy and his own ideas, like on education policy also. So what is his education theory is that we shall see here. To find out natural aptitude. This is the purpose of his education, to find out natural aptitude of what? Of ruler, of his philosopher king. See, who will liberate Athens? A philosopher king will, and a philosopher king needs to have certain attributes and traits and qualities and credentials. So, through his education theory, he will find the natural aptitude of someone who can be a philosopher king. Is it all right? No issues here. So again, we shall see. Next thing, Plato was influenced by Sparta's education system. See, you all know what is Sparta. You have seen the movie 300, I guess. So of all these ancient Greek states, Sparta was also a very formidable and a very important state. Now, he was influenced by Sparta's education system, like public education. Which features he was impressed with? Sparta had this provision where public education was sponsored by the state, which means it was the government which was sponsoring education. And also they used to impart compulsory military education. Can you tell me the name of any country where there is a provision of compulsory military education, compulsory military training? Yes, yes, all of you are right. All the examples that you have given are correct. And do we have that in India? How many of you want it to happen in India? How many of you think if it happens in India, it will be good? Yes, that's why I asked this to you. They are actually thinking about it. And I, for once, am convinced that we must have this compulsory military education. At least, the sense of responsibility, the patriotism will be in us. People have gone on to the extent of chanting Bharat Tere Tukde Honge. These things will be not there. And it will bring the much needed discipline. You can survive under any circumstances. If your chances of survival under any circumstances increases exponentially if you have military training. You will not become I see kids, they are not able to go out in sun. They are like chakkar aa are bhai kya. Okay, so these things, we will stop having full kumar and full kumaris, the very sophisticated and not so tough kids. We must have military education, but until it is passed as a policy, do not be very vocal and supportive about it in any stage of your exam. Of course, in prelims, you don't have that scope. In main and interview, you have. Say that yes, India should go for it, but then it should be democratically arrived at, and we must make our citizens ready. Okay, this should be your stand until it is implemented. So these were the features of Sparta that influenced Plato. That wow, they are giving compulsory military education. This education is sponsored by the state itself, so it's a very good thing to do. And we at Athens are not doing it. So let us implement these provisions that Sparta is already doing. Second, what he says, Plato criticized that in Athens, women were not imparted education. Again, you see, we also discussed Plato as a feminist. Okay, in fact, he is considered to be one of the first feminists. So later on, we'll see him as in the avatar of feminist. So Plato criticized that in Athens, women are not imparted education. Education is in private hand, and physical education is neglected. These are the three criticisms that Plato gave about the prevailing education system at Athens. First, no women are having education, no system of education for women. Second, it's in the private hand. What should be the ideal situation? Public, state sponsored. Why private is giving it? And physical education, the warfare, how to take care of yourself, your physical well-being and body, that is neglected. Only they are imparting theories and theories. So these are his influences. These are his the intended changes that he ought to bring. Moving from here, he again gives a very flow chart. In his book Republica, he has talked about all these things. Primary education, something like play school and nursery school, which kids go to nowadays, 0 to 6 years. Okay, so that would be a primary education. What would be in primary education? We have a term in Hindi called Akshar Gyan. उसको बताओ कि ABCD क्या होता है, क ख ग क्या होता है, right? So give him very elementary stuffs about very counting, alphabets, how to write your name, so on and so forth. That would be primary education. Once you are 6 year old, then until 18 there would be secondary education. So basic knowledge of different subjects, okay, different subjects, grammar and mathematics, geometry, different very basic level education like you have till now 10th and 12th level, okay, and then a test. So after 12th you have a board, so they take a test, and those who pass the test will go to the next level, which means primary and secondary is compulsory. After secondary there will be a test, because he's trying to find what, come on, tell me, what is Plato trying to find out of this education system? Please tell me. He's trying to find out his philosopher king, right? Exactly. Good, Aditya. Suvana, good. That his the ideal. He's an idealist. Who is an idealist? Yesterday we have discussed this so much. Realist and idealist. Who is an idealist? What happened? Did you forget or did you? Who believes idea is beyond material? Who always says that this should happen. This ought to happen. He has an idea within, and he wants everyone to act according to the idea, and that idea is a perfect idea, right? He's an idealist. Realist is the one who tells you what is happening. Idealist will tell you what should happen. So after secondary education there will be a test, and those who pass the test will go to the next level. So what is the next level? Compulsory military education, just for 2 years, 18 to 20 years, when people are in the peak of their at the peak of their youth, in their prime youth, okay, 18 to somewhere after teenage, okay. So these are the, this is the, you know in Israel, you have given the example of Israel. Every boy in Israel has to undergo 3 years of compulsory military training. For girls, it's 2 years. And it's actually incredible to see 16 and 17-year-old guys carrying Dragunov and Kalashnikovs and all the modern Suzov or assault rifles. Probably the only place in Middle East where you see a teenager walking with guns and you are not scared, because he's a disciplined soldier of the IDF. So at that tender age, the military education is imparted. So for the next of his life, or for the next of her life, or the remaining period, 50s and 60s and maybe 70s, he will always be having that trained discipline in him or her. So he also advocates that give them at this tender age for 2 years, 18 to 20 years, train them in military warfare, give them military education. After that, what we do? Higher education. Then see, first the well-being, the physical well-being, then the mental. Okay, you have had a certain degree of knowledge, basic things, then military things, physical stuffs, and then go for higher education. Most of us are like in India, education, 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 right? And people do not focus on well-being. I have not seen any of you, but of what I have seen here in Delhi, several aspirants have this 38-inch waistline and they want to become an IPS officer. It's not a impediment that you cannot become, because once the training happens, it will wither away. But try to indulge into at least 45 minutes of physical labor when you are preparing for such a tough exam. I'm telling this to all of you, it will benefit all of you. Do whatever makes your blood flow fast in your body. If it's yoga, do that. If it's running, do that. If it's power, weightlifting, avoid that. But then do anything that makes your blood, run faster in your body for at least 45 minutes a day. Your efficiency in what you are learning will improve for sure. So again, when you cross that stage, go for higher education until 20 to 35 years of age, where you will be taught mathematics, high level Euclidean mathematics, dialectics. We have seen what is dialectics, geometry, philosophy, and it is believed that you will inculcate some reason within you, which Plato wants to have. And then after higher education, 35 to 50 years, no learning, experience, do things, practice a profession, practice a business, become a teacher, become an educator, whatever you want to do. And at the age of 50, now you are ripe. Now you are ripe, mature enough to be eligible to be a philosopher king. Did you understand this entire process? How algorithmic approach Plato has, how he is training his pupil to act accordingly, right? So by the age of 50, through these various churning levels, through these various educational levels, he will now be eligible to become a philosopher king. Okay, a very well guided method this is by Plato. No questions still here? I think this is very simple and well explained on the slides. How to select the philosopher king? How to select the philosopher king? Uh, Philosopher loves knowledge rather than power. So they reluctantly take position of power. Okay. So they reluctantly take position of power, which means someone who is fit enough to become philosopher king will not have the appetite for power. He will be a reluctant ruler, like you have developed all the traits, okay, and now you will not kind of exact thing, you will not carve for it, you will not have that craving to become the philosopher king now, because now I have been trained accordingly, I'm 50, I have had experience of past 15 years. So it's not like you should be indifferent to become philosopher king. Only then you will that enthusiasm, that jest. Okay. So yes, yes, yes. Dr. Manmohan Singh would be an example. Yes, he, he was not in the race, and neither he was willing. He was not like, I have to become the Prime Minister of India. Any time he said this, never he said this. All the wisdom in the world, very learned man, very educated man, contributed to economic reforms in India, honest person, right? Until the UPA 2 ended, these were the impressions that we had about Dr. Singh, that he is a very genuine and very gentle guy, not interested to be the prime minister, and then he became. So that is what Aristotle says. Again, Dr. Kalam also, yes, actually. Okay, PV Narasimha Rao also, okay. Of course, Narasimha Rao is one of the most underrated prime minister that we ever had. I would not like to evaluate Mr. Modi because he's just started his second term. But when I evaluate our all prime minister, I see I have ranked PV Narasimha Rao at a very high level. The things this guy has done is marvelous. We all credit Dr. Manmohan Singh for economic reform. It was PV Narasimha Rao who actually asked Manmohan Singh to implement it. You read this Sanjay Baru's book, not Accidental PM. There are other books written by him also, and he is the one who de-hyphenated the foreign policy. He is the one who actually did many things which we are witnessing right now. LPG reforms, yes, yes, very good guy, PV Narasimha Rao, and he hardly used to, uh, discuss his things. He used to act silently. So, philosopher king must be unwilling to become the king. That state is best governed where ruler is reluctant to govern, is what Plato says. So, if this statement comes in your main exam comment, then you have to write, first line would be ancient Greek idealist philosopher. You see how we are learning how to write answers? Ancient Greek idealist philosopher Plato. Now, what are you are telling the exam checker, your answer sheet checker, the professor, that he idealist comes with the concept of philosopher king. He believes, one paragraph you write that he believes that people who are dominated by reason, and kings need to study philosophy, or philosophers need to be the king. Only that state can be an ideal state. And then he says that all these stages you show, 0 to 6 years, 6 to 18, very briefly. And then concluding para you write that after one is eligible at the age of 50, after all that preliminary stages which he has passed through, he is eligible to be the philosopher king, and he must be reluctant to be the king. He must be reluctant to be the king, and then this statement will be justified. Did you understand? Any question? I think it's pretty simple. See, it's a very simple subject. If you find political science complex, then you are learning it from the wrong teacher. Okay. We have a question from Archita. If they are not interested to hold power, how will we take care of people? I was expecting this question. Very good question, Archita. We will explain this. We'll see it. Yes, I'm reluctant. I don't want to study political science. Can I study good marks in it? Can I score good marks in it? I'm reluctant to study political science. Can I ever score good marks in it? I cannot. So when there's a legitimate question, when you are reluctant to become king, how will you be a good king? How will you take care of your people? Aditya has given an answer, but there is a better answer which we shall see very soon. Now, Plato's communism. Before I uh, tell you about Plato's communism, How many of you don't know what is communism? All of you know. Very elementary understanding I need here. Very elementary understanding. All of you know. That's what I'm asking. Very elementary understanding of communism. For details, we have Karl Marx left. Okay, just one thing. Those who don't know: equitable distribution. Equitable distribution of resources. Bus. For now, this is what communism means in general. Okay. Now, what is Plato's communism? What is actually Plato's communism? Object of desire must be removed from the ruler's mind. Object of desire must be removed from the ruler's mind. Okay, you must not be like Dr. Manmohan Singh, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. You must be not having desires, more of desires that I want to do this, I want to get access to this and that. That must not be there. Rulers will not be allowed to own property and have families of their own. This is Plato's communism. What he says, that rulers will not be allowed to own property and have families of their own, because this is why people indulge into corrupt practices to have material benefit for the family. Correct. Prime Minister currently fits into this. Right. So that is what Plato says, that king should not be having family, because then he will be attached to the family and he will starve, he will thrive to achieve something good for the family, and then that is where corruption starts. Mating will be carefully regulated to ensure a pool of future rulers, but it will happen outside family structure. Now see the ideas of Plato. That is why Karl Popper will call him a fascist. Okay, there is this famous book by Karl Popper, Enemies of Open Society, and there one full chapter on Plato. Sumana, no need to outrage. This guy passed away some 300, 400 years before the birth of Christ. So your outrage will not affect him now. Okay. There are many just things in your syllabus. Learn to live with them. If you react to everything, I'm sorry, this is not a very good thing to do for an aspirant. Don't be reactive. Try to, kind of get things, whether you agree or not. And this guy is gone. Okay. So mating will be carefully regulated to ensure a pool of future leaders. Like how people marry, they have kids and they are legitimate. What he says, no, you produce babies, but not within the structure of a family. Then how do you produce it? Some more outrage. Here it is. Children will be held in common and they will not know their real father. They will identify state as their family. He seems to be way ahead of his times. I mean, who says these things? See, Evan, you have asked. I was not expecting this. Hitler learned racial purity from this. Hitler learned Nazism from his senior and friend fascist Mussolini. Mussolini takes impression from Hegel. Hegel is an idealist. Plato is an idealist. Get your answer. Hitler is inspired by Mussolini to a large extent. Mussolini is to a large extent inspired by Hegel. Hegel is an idealist. Plato is an idealist. All of you got this answer? The third point means the state will adopt all the children. And no. There are people. Now, what about the future children? Government of India, I want Government of India to pass a law which, if people have more than 2 kids, population policy, then they will be deprived of, disenfranchise those people who keep on, breeding. But it will not apply in retrospect. From now on, it will. If the law is tomorrow, then tomorrow onwards it can apply. So that's what Plato's communism is also telling about. Those children who have been born, like your question was actually, state will adopt all the children, and no, those who have been born, nothing like that. You see the next point. Till here, no issues. I'm not asking you to accept this. Just understand this. Why are you taking it on your heart? It applies only to the ruling elite. He proposed an ascetic communism whose purpose is to remove objects of desire and not see what he says. Let us go back to the slides. Remember the stages 35 to 50 years experience. At 50 you are eligible to be philosopher king. So now he will say that let the ablest of men and the ablest of women, they should be chosen by the state, and then this will happen. Then they should indulge into mating. That will result in the best of the race. Okay, so when the ablest of men and ablest of women chosen by the state mate, Yeah, they have sex through a carefully regulated mechanism which is very much outside the purview of family structure. Then the offspring that will be born, that will be rarest, having all the rare and good traits. Fine. And those children who will be born out of the careful selected mating, regulated out of family structure by the ablest of men and women, those children who will be born will not know who their parents are. Then they will have no attachment towards family. They will view their state as the family. Okay, and they will have all the good traits because their parents had all the traits, good traits, trained by the state, mated by the state. Okay, children don't know who my father is, who my mother is, then he will consider entire country as his family. And then why will he have craving for material good? For whom? Whom do you want to be very happy? Of course, your family, more than yourself, I guess. So when you don't have a family, then will you be very happy if you become the king? Like you become king to do good to your people because the state is your family. Okay, this is what Plato is suggesting. So, unlike Karl Marx communism, which aims to bring equitable distribution, Plato is ascetic communism, spiritual type of communism, where he says object of desire must be removed from the mind of the ruling class. They should not have any object of desire left with them. Please tell me if it's all right. Okay, there's a purpose why he thinks so. Family is evil. Karl Marx will say the same thing. It's for family that people make money. There should be no private husband or wife. Private husband or wife. But state will permit ablest of men to marry ablest of women so that best race emerges. Marriage is only for procreation, reproduction. Okay, for bringing new kids. Now you understood. Family makes you weak. Family gives you attachment. You want to do good for your family, you engage in unfair means. And you don't leave your family. He's truly an idealist. Actually, he is. Actually, he is. Heard about men leaving their family, everything. Of course, we have some example in recent politics. But then how many of can do that? Buddha were not leaders. They were spiritual. They were gods. So they left family for not to run a state. They left family for spiritual well-being in search of truth. And not everyone who wants to rule the state can leave the family. Vajpayee ji was a bachelor does not mean he had no family. Of course, he had his relatives. Of course, Narendra Modi fits more in this category because he left his family. He actually he stays away from his family members are uh, not having any benefit of him being the PM, right? His brother runs a small time shop in Gujarat. So things like this. Then how many can do that, right? Actually, this is actual very tough thing for people to leave their family and then become idealists, devote themselves to the state politics. No. Okay. So next thing, and again, he's a celibate. Modi is a bachelor, a celibate. But there he says, Plato's communism again says that Shastriji had a family. Come on, he had a family. So Shastri had sons. Okay. Character wise, you can say that he was a very noble guy who died under mysterious circumstances. So they will family leave family, produce kids so that the best martial race emerges, and that martial race will take care of what will take care. Who is this beautiful Ram Charan Akash? Okay, so uh, only to produce babies, and that to the ablest of the able babies. Ablest men and ablest women are producing kids. The springs are not even aware that they are my parents. So they will treat state as their what? They will treat state as their family. Point clear here? Now, fascist. Now will come Karl Popper. Karl Popper again is a very prolific and very intelligent writer. Okay, so he will say that this guy actually a fascist. Why he is a fascist? Karl Popper finds Plato to be fascist in his book Open Society and His Enemies. He calls Plato political program as fascism. He has written this beautiful book, Open Society and Its Enemies. Very profound reading it is. So Popper says that what kind of person you are, Plato, and he also says that people because they are so much. They are Plato is a revered name. Okay, the philosophy starts with Plato, right? You can be anti-Plato or pro-Plato. You can never be against, ignore Plato. So that's why people don't say these things that he's fascist. He's actually a fascist, is what Karl writes in his book. And how is he a fascist? Because Plato is a victim of his vanity. What is vanity? What is vanity? Don't know anyone. Kind of excessive pride and excessive who shows good traits. Yes, excessive aesthetics. So he has elevated his pride to such and his trait to such mythical level that he becomes a victim of itself. How? Okay. See, the first point is Karl Popper is an writer. He wrote a book, and there he calls Plato as fascist. That is the first point. There's nothing more. Yeah, and then in second point he says that Plato is so full of himself that he becomes a victim. Kind of narcissist vanity he has. He thinks he is the greatest. That's why he keeps on showing, exhibiting traits of fascism. Who will challenge his philosopher king? No one can challenge the philosopher king. What fascist? How many of you don't know this? I have just one question. Are there any other people who do not know what is fascist? No issues. I assumed, I made a wrong assumption that you know it. No. Mussolini is an example. Now, let us understand what is Islam first. Fascist means that Mussolini said there is nothing beyond the state. There is nothing other than state. Everything that is a state. Okay. Now, someone who attaches such super flaws. Please wait now. Please wait for nationalism and everything. Someone who attaches such super flaws status to a state wants everyone to obey the state. Fascist is the one, a ruler who does not like opposition, who does not like different opinion, who does not like criticism. You speak against a fascist ruler, you will be punished. Okay. You show dissent, you will be punished. Nothing. Don't ask why. Just do and die. This is fascism. Of course, Hitler is fascist. Mussolini is fascist. King John Chu is fascist. Xi Jinping is fascist. Stalin was fascist. Yes, Lenin was fascist. Of course, they are fascist. Extreme authoritarian, totally autocratic. Anything, no democratic traits. His sister keeps emerging, and there is news that he is in coma, but then he also reappears. Yes, almost all communist leaders have done the same. See, when we'll study political ideologies, there I will show you something called Mr. Andrew Haywood has shoe spectrum. Again, I cannot explain it without an example. I should have brought my digital pen today. Okay, just you listen. Have you seen a horseshoe? There's something you like this. Okay, so you have right and you have far left. Then you have conservatives, you have socialists, and somewhere you have liberals. So he says, Andrew Wood says that in a horseshoe spectrum, ideologies tend to show similar traits. So even far right Hitler, okay, and far Mussolini's, and ultra left this guy, Den Xiaopo or Levin Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong and Lenin and Lenin both exhibit such tendencies. The ultra right also does the same, the ultra left also does the same. At the extremes, ideologies tend to merge. This is what Haywood exhibits in his horseshoe spectrum model of political ideology. I'll prepare the diagram when we study political ideologies. Okay? He discusses and wants absolute power. He means Plato, not Karl Popper, with one philosopher king. Plato wants radical changes, Popper favors gradual changes. So Plato is saying the kind of things that you are wanting, that there should be no family, careful mating with ableist of men and women, and all these things, algorithmic education structure, these are very radical changes. And Karl Popper has also criticized Karl Marx. Actually, Popper is a contemporary of, he's a modern political thinker, unlike Plato. But he says that evolutionary changes are always better than revolutionary changes. To a large extent, this is true. Gradual changes are better than jerk reactions. This is why he criticizes Karl Marx also and Plato. So that what is this revolutionary changes that you talk about? It's not operating at an individual level, it's operating at state level, societal level. Masses are concerned. So how can masses behave identically as you are thinking because you are an idealist? You have an ideal within you. Try to be practical, be realistic. Okay, do not be at extreme. So he's saying that your changes are radical change. Society should only that change will sustain, which is gradual change. Then all of us agree to it. 70 years of Indian Constitution, and then he scrapped Article 370, about which Nehruji said Article 170 घिसते घिसते घिस जाएगा. Do you know this? 70 साल लग गए घिसने में. Entire country was almost ready. Please scrap this law. This is of no use. If it was immediately, it would have been reactionary. It was more than 70 years. It is evolutionary. Did you see any opposition apart from few fringe elements? None. Apart from few fringe, we are a democracy. They will always exist. They will always oppose. Come what may. Most of the Indians were like, it's a good thing. Scrap this 370. Why special status? How is it different from rest of India? Why? Because 70 years down the line, most of the Indians are convinced that this article 370 has done more damage than good. And Nehruji himself is saying 370 घिसते घिसते घिस जाएगा. It was temporary nature, and it was done away with just a presidential resolution. I gave the example of Article 370, which was scrapped after more than 70 years of a functioning constitution, about which Nehruji himself said that Article 370 घिसते घिसते घिस जाएगा. What Nehruji said when it was first brought. It was temporary in nature, but it stayed there until last year. So more than 70 years of the functioning of Indian democracy and constitution, most of the Indians were convinced that this Article 370 has done more damage than good. Did we witness major confrontation post abrogation? There were few fringe elements. Now they will always be in democracy who will oppose anything. Apart from that, most of the Indians were happy that yes, this article should be done away with. What is the need of according special status? How is it different from rest of India now? So that was an evolutionary change. Okay, if it was done immediately after the enforcement of Indian Constitution, that would have been what Plato suggests: revolutionary change, radical change. So it took time. More consensus was already generated, and it was done away with just a presidential notification, right? So you see, evolutionary changes are sustained change. Reactionary changes can be short sustained. So Popper will always favor gradual change. Popper blames Plato for essentialism. Now, any question till here? All of you, please see this. Yes, any doubt till here? No, I told you that Plato was considered a very intellectual, very revered name actually. That he's the one, the father of Western philosophy, who has given us dialectics. Entire Western philosophy is a hallmark of Plato and Aristotle. Okay, so that is why no one was willing to confront him until, and this is what Karl Popper writes, that you guys are too scared to touch him, as if he's some kind of holy figure. Okay, that's what he says. That's what he blatantly says. So it is Karl Popper who for the first time will criticize Plato. Now can we write few things? All of you have your pen and papers? See, not everything is to be put on slides. Deliberately I make the slide so short so that I make you write something. Start. A fascist state is a totalitarian state. Totalitarian. Totalitarian is another word for autocratic. It is opposite of democratic. So a fascist state is a totalitarian state which does not recognize liberty and rights, Of course there will be no rights, right, adhikar, and there will be no liberty. Fascist state stress on duties towards the state. Now we have something called fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution. You know where have they been borrowed from? USSR. What form of government was in USSR? A communist state. I asked that where does fundamental duties in Indian Constitution come from? They have been taken from the erstwhile Soviet Union Constitution. What form of government was there in erstwhile Soviet Union? It was a communist form of government. So again, what would an authoritarian government focus on? Duties or rights? Duties. So communists also say that yeah, we are now having a dictatorship of proletariat. So you need to perform your duties. You have no rights. Correct. See how these things are interlinked. Now we will understand Indian constitution in a better way. We will know these thinkers. Just believe you me, these things will come very handy in your Indian constitution also. You see a reason why USSR talks about fundamental duties and why USA will talk about fundamental rights. USA is the cradle of liberalism, individual empowerment. USSR is the communist version. State, the dictatorship of proletariat is sacrosanct. No rights, just perform your duty for the state. Okay. No, there will not have restrictions on people. They will have restrictions on people as well, just for marrying stuff, and of course the marriages of rulers will be regulated and citizens can do what they want to, but because of functional specialization, the obedience towards the state, citizens are also not having liberty. Okay, citizens are also, that's why I'm talking about fascism in Plato. Socrates had to follow the state and he drank poison for it. Please write now. In fascism, leader is the superman. In fascism, leader is the superman. Many Western thinkers, many Western political thinkers, many Western political thinkers have tried to trace uh, the origin of fascism, and they have traced it, and they have traced it to Plato. Karl Popper writes, Karl Popper writes that because of the revered pious, okay, revered status, revered status accorded to Plato for a long time, he has not been recognized as a fascist. Okay. He blames Plato for essentialism. Essentialism. What is essentialism? Please underline that. And just one small dash in front of essentialism, or if it's in the extreme of your notebook, then a small arrow underneath the word. And write what is essentialism, just one line somewhere near it. It is linked with Plato's theory of ideas. Plato's theory of ideas. What he believes, that idea is the ultimate thing. Okay. Plato's ideal state is based on his essence of ideal state. There is nothing called ideal state. The Popper is saying it's actually an essence, that he has such essence of ideal state in his mind. That is why he says that it results into essentialism. Nowhere ideal state has been formed from Plato to Popper. Then he has some ideas, innate ideas. That is what idealists do, and they are troubling us with their idealism. Did you understand this? Adam Smith? How? Adam Smith is long after Plato. How can Plato be influenced by Adam Smith until they have a time machine? Acha, Popper. Yes, Popper is influenced by liberals. That you can say. Yes. Okay, so here what Popper is saying, that he has an essence and he keeps troubling with his essentialism. There is nothing called ideal state in actual world. Now change the paradigm, write something more. Levinson, Levinson, Levinson's book. The name of the book is In Defense of Plato. Levinson's book In Defense of Plato confronts Popper. So he will defend Plato. He wrote a book on it, In Defense of Plato. So he will criticize Popper. He believes that Plato's ideas and fascism, Plato's idea and fascism are not even comparable, are uncomparable. He says that Plato sees so many good things and you are calling him fascist. Plato's ideas and fascism are not even comparable. There is a big time gap. There is a big time gap between Plato's ideas and fascist ideas. So fascism comes after Hegel's writing, when Mussolini tries to translate him in after the First World War. Plato is even 300-400 years before the birth of Christ. So how can you say that he leads to fascism? Is what Levinas says. Any similarity after full stop. What did you write last? He's saying he's blaming Popper. Levinas is blaming Popper Levinson is blaming Popper and saying that you are comparing Platonism with fascism. Fascism is a modern development. Plato was in ancient times, so any similarity is very unconsequential. They are very superficial. Do you got it? That how can you, if something emerged, if a fascist regime emerges after Plato, then you can say he's to be blamed. But 300-400 years before the birth of Christ, and then Mussolini is what? After First World War. So how can you blame him for fascism? Him here means Plato. It's no issues. Can all of others can hear me? All of them are saying yes. So it seems there is some issue at your end. No, no issues. No, no. Don't be. These sessions are recorded, so why worry? One more line. Any similarity? Any similarity between Plato and fascism is superficial. Fascism, fascism believes in aggression. Fascism believes in aggression and expansion. We need to acquire more states, right? We need to annex new countries. Is what fascists believe in. But Plato did not approve of such ideas. Plato has never said these things that a country needs to enslave other country and so on and so forth. Western scholars, Western scholars have used the term.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Can you repeat the last line, the previous line? But
Okay,
Plato did not approve from there.
can you please repeat the last line?
But Plato did not approve. After that, I couldn't hear you.
Plato did not approve of any such ideas which the fascists promote: annexation, expansion, aggression, which the fascists promote. You can write this. Okay. Now can I proceed here?
Yes, sir. Continue. I can't. I think you can't open your chat box again.
Why so? Yes. Western scholars have used the term totalitarianism. Should I spell it? Totali, Ta totally, Tarianism, totalitarianism, fascism, totalitarianism, autocracy, dictatorship, same meaning. Okay, have used the term totalitarianism to describe fascism and communism. Believe actually that fascism and communism are two forms of totalitarianism. Totalitarian regimes can either become fascist or communist. Okay, totalitarianism is against democracy. China and Iran are totalitarian regimes. In Plato's ideal state, people are, what sort of marriages he want for the rulers, for his philosopher kings, and someone who is eligible to be philosopher king? Few minutes before we discussed procreation and regulated. So, what you wrote just now? What is the line that you wrote just now? Please repeat, someone. In Plato's ideal state, people are not free even. You write. This would be bad. Not free even to choose their life partners, and that is why Plato is called father of totalitarianism,
Excuse me, sir. Could you please repeat the sentence?
and that is why Plato is called the father of totalitarianism. Okay, is it all right?
Sir, Plato being called as father of totalitarianism was a statement by Levinson, right?
No, no, no. Levinson has, please try to understand. Levinson has defended Plato. He would never call him totalitarian against Karl Popper. Just now we saw that Western thinkers have attributed totalitarianism manifest in the form of fascism and communism. So now we are quoting some Western thinkers here, not Levinson.
Okay, sir.
Okay. How can someone who writes a book in defense of Plato call him totalitarian? Okay, just put a star mark so that you could have changed the paragraph there. Levinson has written a book in defense of Plato. He will never call him totalitarian. You have used the term totalitarianism for the first time. From there, you need to change the para. It's my bad. I could have told this to you. You have described that Western thinkers have some line you wrote regarding totalitarianism. There, you need to change the para. Give a star mark. कुछ drawing कर लो वहाँ पे. Done. All of you. No confusion now. So now you write. But we will defend Plato also. So if this question comes in your main exam that Plato is father of totalitarianism, Plato is fascist, Plato is autocratic, Plato is dictator, anything, any word can be asked. Four words: Dic- dictator, autocratic, fascist, and totalitarian. Dictator, fascist, totalitarian, autocratic. One and the same thing. So this is how you need to write. Now we need to defend Plato. Change the para. It is inappropriate. It is inappropriate to call Plato totalitarian. His ideal state is an utopia. Never happened. Too good to be true. Utopia means fairy tale. Cinderella ki kahani. Utopia means too good to be true. So his ideal state never happened. So that is too good to be true. So it's an utopia. If it would have happened, then we know that what form it would have taken, right? So no one knows, right? This no one knows the form. No one knows the form which Plato's ideal state would have acquired, right? We don't know which form it would have. Only it has to be there. Only then we can confirm. But it never happened. Full stop. Plato's intentions, you're right. Plato's intentions were never to exploit the people. Nowhere he writes this that people should be exploited or they should be crushed or suppressed. Was never to oppress the people, which a totalitarian state would do. On the contrary, after full stop, on the contrary, why he calls for an ideal state so that harmony, justice, peace prevails, right? Philosopher King will do good, Athens will attain its glory. Remember the initial discussion that we had on Plato? This is what we discussed. This is what his idea of ideal state was. Where did he say that we want to suppress people? Okay, he wanted to create a state where harmony and excellence prevail. Harmony and excellence prevail. Plato's philosopher king is a symbol of knowledge and sacrifice. How sacrifice, you know? How sacrifice? Knowledge we understand, but how sacrifice? No family, yes, regulated marriages, not being able to know who the parents are, no property, no wealth, actually. Unwillingness to rule. Yes, reluctant to take throne. Very good. Good. Good, you people are understanding. See, these are the idealist thinkers are very tough, is what I'm told. That in order to make one understand about idealism, Plato and Hegel and Aristotle is the toughest thing. Class finds it tough. But if you are understanding it, then nothing like that. Let it. His Plato's philosopher king is an example of knowledge and sacrifice, and he does not show any trait of a fascist ruler. He does not show any trait of a fascist ruler. Nowhere will something like this happen, where his philosopher king will indulge into material pursuits or try to suppress the voice of people. He is there to bring harmony and peace so that Athens attains its glory. Okay, so it's we will never say that Plato is a fascist. Karl Popper has said so. We have contributed. We have quoted him. We have not said. Karl Popper has said, and then someone has criticized Karl Popper, and then there is a conclusion coming from us because these are very superficial similarities. Okay, no, Alexander also did not have any such state. Alexander died at the age of 33. Okay, so these are the things that I had to discuss with you today regarding Plato. Some small part of Plato is left, which will be done in, I guess, 15 to 20 minutes in the next class. And then we will move to his great disciple, Aristotle. And then we will compare. Aristotle has criticized his guru Plato. So we will compare Plato with Aristotle on things where they agree, on things that they don't agree. What are Aristotle's view on women and slave? Again, some of you may find it very outrageous, but then cannot do anything. Okay, so please try to understand things. Do not accept. I'm not asking you to accept these thinkers as 100% genuine people. That whatever they have said is gospel truth. No, it's not. But we need to understand what they're talking about. That's what our syllabus calls us to do. And if you are understanding, nothing like that. Okay, I hope and wish that you are understanding. to the best of your ability. There is no such thinker who is not criticized. See, it's not blasphemy to criticize a thinker. He is a human. How can he not be criticized? Is there a human being which committed no mistake? Then he would be elevated to the level of God. Humans are prone to make mistakes, and thinkers are humans. That's why we'll criticize all of them. Okay, I should do it tomorrow because today most of the many things you have written today. Uh, Tomorrow, because Plato and Aristotle will be continued, so a new slideshow would start that I will send today, along with what we have discussed today. So we'll get it tomorrow itself. Idealist theory of state. There is something called idealist theory. It's not there in your syllabus actually. But then when people bow down to the state, then it is idealist theory. Or the fascist also. We'll see Hegel, how he was inspired by dialectics. He's also an idealist. All the fascist regime, whether North Korea or erstwhile Soviet or China or Venezuela or Cuba, all of them. Socrates is not in syllabus actually. Why we don't study him? Why is it not in syllabus? UPSC can tell better, but from what I understood, uh, Socrates has not talked much about political philosophy. He has talked more about other things, more complicated than Plato and Aristotle put together. He delves deeper into more, uh, insightful queries about God, soul, immortality, things like that, which is not a part of political theory for sure. Socrates is Socrates, greatest of all the thinkers. Actually, actually, we need to partially agree on this that all that is Socratic is Platonic because Socrates has ventured into different things apart from political theories. Okay, okay. See you all in the next class.